So let me make sure I get your name right. Wilhelmina Okwabi?
Yes, you are right.
Okay.
Wilhelmina Okwabi.
Okwabi. Great. Thanks, Wilhelmina.
Thank you.
Wilhelmina, I think we have a little bit of delay with your transmission. So probably when you speak, if you're asking a question or if you're waiting for an answer, it might take a little while. So don't be surprised, okay?
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
But we can hear you clearly. Hello, Ibisu, how are you?
Hi, Sergio. I'm good. Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Sean. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm awake.
That helps.
It'd be so nice to meet you. I don't think we actually saw each other last time.
No, we didn't.
Wilhelmina,
Hello, Sean.
very good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Now, Sergio, are we going off camera until you call upon us, or how are we managing that?
I think that would be best, probably.
Yeah.
I'll be switching mine as well off. It'd be better if we switch as many cameras off as possible when we're not speaking, I think, because of bandwidth and everything. Is that right, Deborah?
Plus, it distracts people if
Yeah.
there are just thousands on the screen. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to mute and what's the equivalent of turning off your video with one verb? You can
Vanish?
mute, you can't, I guess, disappear. I don't
Disappear?
know.
Yes.
Vanish? Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay. We'll have to find a new word for this virtual era.
Yeah. You found a gap in the lexicon.
I was gonna say, Sergio, we could probably wait a few more minutes. We don't have to start on 1 p.m. sharp because I see that there's lots of people still coming online.
Yeah, Amy had mentioned waiting for at least a couple of minutes.
Okay, great. I will also check with Gerda. I don't see her online yet. Oh no, that Gerda is there.
There's Gerda.
Hey,
Hi, Gerda. How are you?
hey, good. What kind of bicycle do you have, Sergio?
Oh, I have a very cheap and very heavy mountain bike.
Good. Great. Well done.
I try and get out almost every day.
Oh, very good, very good, very good, very good.
Yeah.
But it was good that you were shouting because I was climbing the hill.
Of course, I was trying to motivate you.
Yeah, very good, very good. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone.
Good afternoon, Gerda. Very welcome.
Good afternoon.
Great
Good
to see
afternoon.
already so many people connecting. It's an important issue.
Indeed, yeah. I think we had about 350 something signed up.
Great. Yeah.
We'll wait a few more minutes before we start.
Yeah, we had a good briefing call a couple of days ago, and also we just had a hello chat with everybody now this morning as well. So it's good to see everybody has been able to connect well.
Great.
Deborah, shall we give it another minute before we start? I think the attendee list is still climbing up.
Yeah, I will say we can wait. What is it now? 03. I think 04 we can start. Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. I'm sharing my
Okay, for
screen.
you, Sergio. Yeah. Perhaps, Sergio, you can say that we just start in a minute.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you all for waiting. I think we'll wait for just an extra minute or two as people are still logging on, and we'll get going in just a couple of minutes. Thank you, everyone. Well, it's great to see so many people joining. I think we're just waiting for an extra minute while everyone logs on. But in the meantime, in the chat box, if you'd like to let us know what country you work with or region, and also your name and your position, that would be great. Thanks so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Sergio Cooper Teixeira, and I am the Strategic Advisor for Knowledge, Learning, and Communications at Nutrition International. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this, the third roundtable on the Nutrition for Growth Year of Action that is running throughout 2021, and on the forthcoming Nutrition for Growth Summit. This roundtable is co-hosted by the Scaling Up Nutrition, or SUN movement, and the Global Nutrition Report. And this third roundtable brings together stakeholders all the way from West Africa to Central Asia. And you represent all different kinds of members of the SUN movement, as well as the global nutrition community. Before we get going, I would just like to remind those listening in to please indicate in the chat box the country or region that you work for, or in, or with, your name and your organization. I'd also ask that you post your questions and comments in the chat box as and when you think of them. We have colleagues from both the Global Nutrition Report and SUN monitoring the chat box, and they could respond to those questions right away in the chat box or flag them so that we can discuss them in plenary, and they may also follow up with you afterwards if that's the best way to give you an answer. Please note, if you have a question for a particular participant, please state that clearly when you're answering the question. Finally, I'd like to remind everyone that the roundtable today will be recorded so that we can make it available on the Sun Movement YouTube channel in the coming days for all those that have not been able to attend today. So before we get going with our roundtable, I'd like to just review the agenda with you and also introduce the speakers who are joining us today. So our agenda will flow as follows. First of all, we'll have a couple of welcome addresses. First one by Dr. Emi Inaoka. Dr. Emi is Deputy Director and Special Assistant for Global Health at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan are hosting the Nutrition for Growth Summit in Tokyo in December 2021. We'll then have a welcome address by Gerda Verberg, UN Assistant Secretary General and Sun Movement Coordinator. This will be followed by our only presentation, and that will be delivered by Charlotte Martineau. Charlotte is Senior Nutrition Policy Advisor, and she will at the Global Nutrition Report, and she'll be presenting on behalf of Dr. Renata Misha, who is chair of the Global Nutrition Report's independent expert group. We'll then have an open discussion among several roundtable participants, and time permitting, we'll ask them to also answer some questions from you. So that's why I was suggesting that as you think of questions, please do post them in the chat box and tell us who you think that question is best suited for. That'll be followed by a closing statement by Dr. Naoko Yamamoto. Dr. Naoko Yamamoto is Assistant Director General for Universal Health Coverage and Health of Populations at the World Health Organization. And Dr. Naoko Yamamoto is also Chair of UN Nutrition. We'll then end with some wrap-up remarks and final comments from participants if we have time. Next slide, please. So to introduce also our 5 panelists that will be on our roundtable today. So we have Ms. Karima Al-Khada, who works for the Sun Movement Secretariat of the Planning and she's a Planning and Liaison Specialist in the Ministry of Planning and International Cooperation in Yemen. We also have Mr. Sean Baker, who many of you will know. Sean is Chief Nutritionist at USAID. He also is a representative for USAID on the Sun Donor Network. And he's also the Global Nutrition Report Steering Group's co-chair and is an ex officio member of the Sun Executive Committee. So he'll be with us today wearing several hats. We also have Ms. Wilhelmina Okwabi, and she's a nutrition advocacy specialist within the Civil Society Alliance Executive Committee and the Civil Society Alliance in Ghana. We also have Ms. Ibiso Ivy King-Harry, who works with the Sun Business Network. She's the coordinator of the Sun Business Network in Nigeria. And finally, we're really happy that today we'll be able to talk to us directly live, Ms. Manata Alexandrovna. And Manata is a youth leader working with the Civil Society Network in Kyrgyzstan. So as you can see, we have a really diverse group of speakers today, and it's really exciting to have everyone from different parts of the world and from so many different stakeholder groups within the Sun Movement. So I'd now like to start by sharing with you some welcoming remarks from Dr. Emi Inaoka. Like I said, Dr. Emi Inaoka is with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan. Please note that because of the time difference, Dr. Inaoka's comments are recorded. So over to you, Amy, for those opening remarks.
Dear members of Sun countries, thank you very much for your very warm welcome to this regional roundtable on Nutrition for Growth 2021, organized by the Global Nutrition Report and the Scale Up Nutrition movement. Due to the COVID-19, food insecurity has increased, and malnutrition is on the rise. With 4 years left to achieve the World Health Assembly nutrition targets, and 9 years to achieve the SDGs, the N4G summit in December 2021 is a key opportunity to renew political momentum, mobilize additional funding, and accelerate action for ending all forms of malnutrition. We also hope that the summit can help revitalize ownership of the nutrition agenda at the highest political level and be an occasion for renewed alignment between nutrition stakeholders at national level. Policy action for nutrition should be discussed with other related issues such as universal health coverage, food systems, and development assistance. This is an opportunity to bring nutrition stakeholders together to jointly review progress and bottlenecks on implementing national nutrition plans and identify areas where further action is needed, forming the basis of aligned commitments by governments and other stakeholders. Finally, we wish to acknowledge its strong leadership of several partners and stakeholders, including donors, UN agencies, business, civil society, and of course, the Sun Movement and GNR to make commitments so that Nutrition for Growth be a truly successful and significant event. We wish you all a productive and engaging roundtable, and we look forward to welcoming you to the Tokyo N4G Summit to make ambitious commitments to fight all forms of malnutrition. Thank you very much.
Great to hear from Dr. Inaoka there, the reminder that really we are in the year of action in 2021, and that we have some 8 months left in this run up to December and to the summit. So it's so important that today and in the coming months, as many organizations make commitments as they can. And it's great that we're here today to go through some of that process and how N4G works. So I'll now like to hand the floor to Ms. Gerda Verberg, Sun Movement Coordinator and United Nations Assistant Secretary General, for some inspiring remarks. Over to you, Gerda.
Thank you very much, Sergio, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It is great to have so many participants already, and I can see the number of participants still growing. At the beginning of this third roundtable, in the run-up to the N4G summit, but also thinking about the Food Systems Summit and making use of the year of action on nutrition, it is great to have this meeting with so many participants. We first had a meeting in Asia, bringing around the table all Asian countries to share and learn from each other, but also to cross-inspire each other. We had a meeting with Southern and Eastern Africa that was also very inspiring, where very pragmatic potential solutions, but also already acting solutions were brought to the table, all to get people inspired to make an ambitious, but at the same time realistic agenda and commitment to be presented at the Nutrition for Growth. Because we are really pushed back in the nutrition agenda by COVID-19, but also by other crises or disasters. So this is the year of opportunity. And as Sun Movement member countries, we are bringing different stakeholders together, and we need the collaboration of different stakeholders. But to not confuse people too much at country level, there was a decision made that we will combine 4 topics and use this year of action on nutrition to combine an agenda of 4 important issues. One is to build back better, or we like more to build forward better, recovering from COVID-19, from the crisis, and learning the lessons about smart combination of humanitarian and health support with food and nutrition support, for instance, but also learning lessons how vulnerable our food and health systems are at country level. So that's the first topic. The second topic is the Food System Summit that will be hosted by the Secretary General, where all players, all stakeholders have to come together to think about how to make our food systems work better to nourish people, to create healthy and nutritious food, and at the same time is produced in a sustainable way. So taking care of the health and nutrition of people and the planet alike. Of course, we are preparing for the Nutrition for Growth Summit, and I thank the government of Japan, represented by Amy Naoka, for hosting this together and working together with so many players, including these players, the Sun Movement, to make this N4G Nutrition for Growth Summit a big success. Because we need investment in nutrition, and it is calculated that we need to invest $7 billion per year to get over the current crisis and to really end all forms of malnutrition, leaving no one behind. The fourth issue on the agenda is the fact that the Sun Movement just started a 3rd phase, Sun 3.0. And the strategy for this 3rd phase from 2021 till 2025 is very much focused on collaboration at the country level, government in the lead, multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder collaboration, and creating impact and making sure that nutrition is included, embedded in policy and in legislation. Not only in the Ministry of Health, not only in the Ministry of Food or Planning, but throughout the government and all the departments, because nutrition is crucial, but nutrition has to be delivered from different angles, including social protection, education, economic development, finance, and what have you more. We're not starting from scratch. And today I would like to applaud our panelists. They all bring their own perspectives. For instance, Nigeria already made a strong commitment in December 2020. But maybe there is more to be done because Nigeria has a lot of challenges ahead, but you made already a very promising and very ambitious commitment. I would like to recognize Kyrgyzstan, where the civil society Alliance have made great contributions to the Food and Nutrition National Plan 2019-2023. Thank you for your very concrete commitments, and it kickstarted Kyrgyzstan's further investment in better food and nutrition. I'd like to applaud Ghana, who is making step-by-step progress. Sometimes you want to see things speeding up a little bit, but if it's a solid road towards delivering on the World Health Assembly goals, then it is great. But maybe there is space to speed up. And of course, let's not forget Yemen. That is in a very dire situation, but always trying to combine humanitarian support with the nutrition of with the delivering of nutrition services, and we will hear from people from all 4 countries. Great. May I look a little bit ahead, because very soon Gavi will announce the start of the vaccination program COVAX. And I would like to announce how smart combinations can help us a lot, being cost effective, but at the same time, serving people in different ways at the community level. we are working with Gavi to make sure that vaccination and food and nutrition services are combined as much as possible. Gavi wants to reach the people furthest behind, even in the most remote area. And that is exactly what needs to happen also to nutrition. So every country, group of Sun Movement members or other people involved in nutrition and health, vaccination and food, please get your act together and try to make these smart combinations where you can serve people in one go from different perspectives. There are much more good examples to be given, but it's not to me in this opening remarks. But I'm quite sure that we will hear from people, from the panelists and other contributors, that we need to be pragmatic. We need to prioritize nutrition if we want a future in which children and kids get the right opportunity to develop all their talents and opportunities. And we need to invest in their mothers, starting, of course, with adolescent girls. That's a key message, never to forget. Let's move on, and looking forward to hear very concrete examples and questions from this audience. Back to you, Sergio.
Gerda, thanks for that. And as was to be expected, truly inspiring remarks, giving some really concrete examples there from countries making commitments and the progress that some countries are making. So thanks so much for those remarks. I'd now like to hand over to Charlotte Martineau. Like I introduced, Charlotte is a senior nutrition policy advisor, and she's presenting today on behalf of Dr. Renata Misha, who is chair of the Global Nutrition Report's independent expert group. Charlotte will be presenting to you on the Global Nutrition Report's key resources, including two key ones that we really want to make sure that everyone takes away today, are online and exist and are available. So one is the Nutrition for Growth Commitment Registration Form, and the other is the Nutrition for Growth Commitment Registration Guide. Over to you, Charlotte.
Thank you very much, Sergio, and welcome everybody. I'm humbled by the number of people and the places you're all coming from everywhere. This is really great to see the level of interest. So today I'm talking on behalf of Dr. Miha, who has been the chair of the independent expert group of the GNR for about a year now. Dr. Miha sends her apologies, but wanted to share how exciting times this is for nutrition, to see everyone come together to advance and prioritize the nutrition agenda. Today is such a great opportunity to get participants and panelists' thoughts and understand how we can better support during the commitment making progress and during this year of action. I will talk about the role of the GNR in the year of action and how we will be supporting and driving stronger nutrition commitments. So to put things in perspective, 1 in 11 people are hungry or undernourished, and 1 in 3 adults are overweight or obese. Malnutrition can take many forms and includes multiple diet-related conditions caused by having not enough calories, nutrients, or quality food, or by having too much low-quality food. When we say when we say undernutrition, we refer to childhood stunting and wasting, as well as micronutrient deficiencies like anemia, for example. It's unacceptable that 690 million people, including children, don't have enough food or enough healthy food. This is twice the size of the United States. And it has gone up with COVID, that has led to food shortages and driven many households from food security to food insecurity. At the same time, overweight and obesity affecting 2 billion adults worldwide. That's such a big number, and it's only going up. Obesity puts a lot of strain on our health systems, and our societies. And it's both a chronic disease as well as a risk factor for other diet-related disease. Building a population resilience through addressing nutrition is essential, and COVID made us realize that in the hard way. So what does that mean for countries? On this map, you can see progress made by countries towards the global nutrition targets, as set by the World Health Assembly in 2013. These targets are set to expire in 4 years. There are 10 targets covering maternal and child malnutrition, like anemia, low birth weight, stunting, and wasting, and diet-related chronic diseases, such as overweight, obesity, and diabetes. To give you an example, or to give you some example of targets, for stunting, the goal is to reduce by 40% the number of children under 5 who are stunted. And for adults, obesity, it's to stop the rise in prevalence. When we classify off course for all targets, it means that none of the 10 global targets are on course to being met. And that's the case for almost half of the countries globally. 50 countries are on course to meet at least one target, 35 for 2 targets, 13 for 3 targets, and it's only 8 that will meet or are on course to meet 4 of those targets. And 4 of targets is the maximum number of targets that countries are on track to meet. This is clearly a problem, and it highlights the need to scale up our efforts and improving nutrition. What is driving the global nutrition crisis? Our diets. Poor diets are the leading cause of poor health, as compared to many other traditional risk factors such as smoking, high blood pressure, even air pollution. Almost 300 million years are lost prematurely every year worldwide due to child and maternal malnutrition. And almost 200 million years are lost prematurely due to poor diet habits associated with chronic disease. So the Global Nutrition was created in 2013 as an accountability mechanism for the Nutrition for Growth Summit to help understand nutrition and guide action globally. A global problem requiring a global solution. To serve this purpose, we created 2 tools which have been refreshed and will be updated further this year. The country nutrition profiles, they track the problem. How are we burdened by poor diets and malnutrition? Because we need data-driven decision-making and action. And the nutrition commitment tracker, it tracks the solutions offered by all the constituencies, because poor diets and resulting malnutrition are not simply a matter of personal choices, and because promises without strong action and accountability mean nothing. I will cover the nutrition tracker in a few slides, but let's look at the country nutrition profiles first. So what can you find in the country nutrition profiles? As the name suggests, the nutrition profile of each country worldwide, in addition to regions and the globe. This tool focuses on the where, the location, leveraging the latest available nutrition data. We use interactive features and charts to best visualize the available information, and it's organized in 5 sections. So let's look at those sections before we explore the findings on West Africa and Asia progress. So firstly, on the profile, you can find progress towards global nutrition targets, these targets that I mentioned earlier and will expire in 4 years. Then diets, covering what we eat from infants to adults and how that compares to optimal level of consumption that you can find in the middle. The burden of malnutrition, covering the various forms of malnutrition across the life course. And here you can see buttons and you can play with the charts from underweight, overweight, and obesity. Nutrition strategies and financing. These are the actions and strategies, policies taken to address poor diets and malnutrition, as well as investments that are being made. And last but not least, the social determinants of malnutrition, such as under 5 mortality rate, poverty, and various markers of inequity. So now, Looking specifically at the West African region, we see that progress towards each of the global nutrition targets is too slow. Progress is being assessed by comparing current levels with the expected levels for the country to meet those targets on time in 4 years. Looking at how filled the gray bar is, you can see that only 11 of the 16 countries are on course or made some progress for exclusive breastfeeding, and 12 are on course for under 5 overweight, and that includes Nigeria and Ghana. Half of West African countries made some progress on women in reproductive age anemia, including Ghana, and only a few countries are on course for under 5 stunting and under 5 wasting. Similarly, in Asia, progress is too slow. Too many countries have made no progress or are worsening. We can, however, celebrate some progress, for example, at country level in Kyrgyzstan, who is on course for under 5 stunting and wasting. But we need to recognize and acknowledge some challenges shared across all regions. The lack of progress or worsening situation for adult obesity and diabetes, or the lack of data altogether that prevents the analysis and therefore the tracking. And this is the case for Yemen on low birth weight and exclusive breastfeeding, for example. It will be really interesting in today's discussion to hear your thoughts on this and what are the opportunities and the challenge of the Year of Action and what it represents for you as a constituent, an individual, or your country. Now that you have a better idea of the country nutrition profile and how these profiles help us track the problem, you can have a deeper look on the website. Let's explore together the Nutrition Commitment Tracker, which looks at the solutions offered. So the Nutrition Tracker focuses on the who makes commitments and the type of commitments they make. What you can expect to find on our tracker as it is now are commitments made in past summits from 2013 and 2017. Just to note that for the Year of Action, we will be updating this webpage to reflect the new principles as well as the new commitment made, and I'll cover that a bit later. So in terms of the who, we monitor pledges made by all stakeholders, including countries, donors, businesses, civil society organizations, and the United Nations. The commitments they make can vary. A key example is financial commitments that support increased financing for nutrition. For example, the proportion of total government health budget allocated to nutrition. Another example is policy commitments related to implementing any legal or regulatory framework, policy, strategy, or action plan. To give you one example, we have product taxation, sugar sweetened beverages taxes, for example, which is a tax on beverages where there is added sugar, or product reformulation. Another example is impact commitments. Those are in line with the global targets and sustainable development goals, such as decreasing childhood stunting and wasting, or decreasing the prevalence of obesity. So look at this example to see how we track and report on each commitment made at past summits. Our tool assesses progress made either as having reached their target, being on course, or being off course. Most commitments were made and reached by countries. And here you have the example of the United Kingdoms as a prominent example where they exceeded their targets to disperse a total of £2.7 billion in nutrition-specific and nutrition-sensitive financing between 2013 and 2018. They also reached their original target to reach 50 million children, adolescent girls, and women with various nutrition programs by 2020. Please note, this section of our website will be updated to reflect all the changes that we're making to adapt to the Year of Action and the coming commitments. So what will be the role of the GNR in the Year of Action? If 2020 was eye-opening for nutrition, 2021 should be the year of making strong and impactful nutrition commitments. Both Dr. Inaoka and Gerda made that call. We need action, and this is the year to make these action through commitments. Following endorsement of the stakeholders, and especially the government of Japan, the GNR plays a central role this year in order to drive stronger and smarter commitments in the year of action. The GNR will remain the primary and go-to nutrition accountability mechanisms. And we will develop and lead a nutrition accountability framework. What does it mean? Construct and coordinate the entire framework under which nutrition commitments will be monitored, and we will leverage and realign with existing other accountability mechanisms. This is a big task. This framework will include eligibility and qualifying criteria for nutrition commitments, which nutrition commitments can and will be monitored, which ones. It will also establish methods for monitoring nutrition commitments covering from registration and progress assessment. The framework will facilitate the registration of nutrition commitments via online tools through a guide and a form, and I'll come back to those very shortly. And it will enable reporting on progress on an annual basis, which is something that the GNR has been doing and will continue to do with the commitments made this year. The overall goal of this framework is to monitor nutrition commitments, assess and report on their progress. Again, to come back to my point earlier, we don't want empty promises. We want concrete actions, and then we want to check on those actions. The GNR will be detailing and publishing the nutrition accountability framework work throughout the year and publish online as soon as material and resources are developed. So what is in place at the moment? To facilitate the commitment registration process of the year of action, the GNR developed a registration guide and form endorsed by Government of Japan, and these are in alignment with the Nutrition Commitment Making Guide, as well as the Nutrition for Growth Vision and Roadmap. They're both available on the Make a Commitment page of the Nutrition for Growth website. Don't hesitate to go and have a look. 4 steps. 1, review the guide. Everything is in there. 2, formulate smart nutrition commitment. This is key for monitoring. 3, register your commitment online. This makes it easier. We're really hoping that as many constituents and partners make commitments, so please register online. But if you can't, there is a PDF form that we can share. Please contact us on that one. And finally, reporting on your progress to the GNR. The reporting is really important to show that those promises are not empty. So the commitment registration guide is a step-by-step guide to help register those smart commitments. It includes everything you need to know before making a commitment, effectively familiarizing yourself with the Nutrition for Growth principles of engagement, the Nutrition for Growth thematic areas, and the commitment types, policy, financial, operational. It describes the registration form and provides some examples as well on how to complete the form. It explains how to formulate smart commitments with concrete examples. And it's important to note that filling the form enables the commitment to be smart, because we're asking all those elements that we need for a smart commitment. It provides the link on where to register online. And finally, it describes what to expect after registering your commitments. All commitments will be recorded in the compact, which is an outcome document that will be produced at the end of the Tokyo Nutrition for Growth Summit. And commitments will also be shared publicly by the GNR and will be tracked and reported on annually. So now the commitment registration form. As mentioned before, filling this form enables for smart commitments to be registered. It is recommended to register commitments online. However, it is possible to download the registration form and email it to the GNR team, as I mentioned earlier. Don't hesitate to contact us for that. The completion of the form is required in order to register your commitments. So there are 3 sections to the form. The first one, it's the commitment making entity and the stakeholder group it represents, the number of commitments to be registered. Please note that multiple commitments across all thematic areas are encouraged, and the form allows each commitment to be registered separately within the same document. In the section 2 is where you can record commitments, and there are 3 parts. The first part specifies the commitments criteria, type, and focus. That is the criteria that commitments must meet, being smart, aligning with national priorities, aligning with the principles of engagement, and annual reporting to the GNR. It's really important that constituents understand that making a commitment is committing to report as well. The second part is the commitment ingredients, which is the breakdown of the commitments into distinct ingredients to enable the formulation of smart and trackable commitments. And finally, the third part is the full commitments, and this is where it has to be registered in the compact. That is the formulation of the commitments using previously defined ingredients. Please note that the first 2 sections, the second section, the one in the middle, is not compulsory. The commitment makers can fill in only the full commitment part. However, this tool has been set up in order to help commitment makers and tracking. We're confident that the guide and the form will provide the required support to make smart commitments. These 2 documents will be refined further in the next couple of months based on feedback we receive as well as resources secured. We will be piloting those tools. We will be consulting with a number of stakeholders, and ideally commitments should be registered on time for the Tokyo Nutrition for Growth Summit in December. This year, we have the opportunity to put nutrition at the top of the global policy agenda and reverse the negative effect of COVID on nutrition, only if stakeholders take bold and concerted action. The GNR makes the case for governments, businesses, and civil society to enable faster and move impactful progress towards improving nutrition in 4 key areas. Build equitable, resilient, and sustainable food and health systems to ensure that everyone has access to healthy food and quality nutrition care. Secondly, expand financing, crucially for diet-related chronic disease, and direct resources and programs to the communities and population most affected. Third, focus on joint efforts by engaging and mobilizing all sectors to act now and targets those most in need. And finally, to leverage key moments, the Tokyo Nutrition for Growth, the UN Food Systems Summit, every moment that is in the year of action to renew and expand commitments and strengthen accountability to monitor pledges and commitments. So now you have a better view of how the Global Nutrition Report will be supporting and driving stronger nutrition commitments this year. You've had a bit of global context. You know which tools the GNR put available to you online and what we're planning for this year. We're looking forward to receiving commitments online. Please contact us, reach out if you have any question. And I'm particularly looking forward to the questions and answer and the discussion with the panelists to understand what is the need. So over to you, Sergio, and thank you very much, everyone, for listening.
Thanks so much for that really clear presentation on the Global Nutrition Report and what it's pointing out about where progress is being made, but also sadly, all the many areas where progress really has to accelerate, and also for, I think, giving us a really clear picture of how the N4G process is being strengthened and improved, and the many new tools that are available. Before letting you go, Charlotte, I wanted to ask you a question that we got from a participant, which would be great for you to answer. So at the country level, who is supposed to register a commitment? Is it only a government actor, or can any stakeholder from any stakeholder group involved in nutrition also register a commitment? Thanks, Charlotte.
This is a very good question. I think part of the documents that we're reviewing will define a bit better and in more details who can make a commitment. What is important is that there is consensus. I think this is important to say. If the commitment is, who is the commitment for and being made by? Where is the money gonna come? Who has the power to put in practice this commitment? Like, no matter, this is not an advocacy pledge. Civil society organization can make a commitment. If this is a commitment from the civil society organization of a country, then they can make that commitment. If this is a commitment from the government, it has to be a government representative to make that commitment, which a person who has the authority to make the commitment. And we're refining that because that wasn't clear. So we're refining that in the first section of the commitment making form. I hope that answers the question.
It does, Charlotte. Thanks so much. And we're receiving several more questions in the chat box about the commitment process. On behalf of whom can you make commitments, and duplication, etc. So what I'd suggest, Charlotte, if you can already try to address some in the chat box. And I think this is a good moment to remind everyone that colleagues from the Global Nutrition Report and from the Sun Movement Secretariat, like the country liaison team, are here to support all stakeholders from now until December with this whole commitment process. So don't only ask questions today, but in a month's time, if you're trying to complete the registration form and you have these questions, please do send them in. So great, thanks so much, Charlotte. And if everyone can look out for Charlotte's answers in the chat box. Great. So I'd now like to switch over to kick off our roundtable, which is really a conversation, I think. And it's a conversation about nutrition for growth and about the commitments, about the Nutrition for Growth Summit, and about this year of action that is running throughout 2021. And as Gerda mentioned, we're lucky that our roundtable today has 5 participants who can all speak from really different perspectives. And you'll see also that each of them wears multiple different hats, which I think is something typical in nutrition and typical in the Sun movement. So we have colleagues from government, from donor organizations, also from civil society. We have a youth leader, and we have a colleague engaging businesses in nutrition. So a really diverse roundtable. And you'll see that all of them participate in the Sun movement through one of its networks or governing bodies, or in some of the activities that the movement promotes. So we'll be asking each of them a slightly different take on what this Nutrition for Growth year of action means for them, or for their country, or for their organization and the people they work with, what actions their country or network is taking, but also one crucial point, which is what assistance they need to make progress on nutrition or to make commitments through the Nutrition for Growth process. So we've seen some of the challenges, or doubts at least, coming up through the chat box there, but we'll be exploring some of those. So we're going to have 5 different interventions, but please note that I'll probably stop after the second or third to address any burning questions to those first 3 speakers that have come through the chat. So as you think of questions for these first 3 speakers, please do post them in the chat box. And I'll also ask roundtable participants if they have questions for each other. So if you also have questions, please keep them. And as we have time, I'll ask you to pose those questions. So I'll first be asking our colleague from government to share their thoughts. And as we all know, governments must really take the lead in many aspects of nutrition, including policy making and allocating budgets, but so many other roles as well. So I'm happy to introduce first Ms. Karima Al-Khada. Ms. Karima is a planning and liaison specialist at the Sun Movement Secretariat in the Ministry of Planning and International cooperation in Yemen. Ms. Al-Khada, fighting malnutrition is critical in Yemen, but despite the many challenges, as we heard from Gerda Verburg, Yemen is often recognized for the efforts it's trying to make. So, Ms. Karima, can you tell us what the Nutrition for Growth Year of Action means to you and to Yemen? Over to you, Ms. Al-Khada.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon to all, and thank you for having me. It is an honor to be here. In regard to the Nutrition for Growth, what it means for Yemen, I think it is a very important step. It means for us to understand, first of all, the national priorities and trying to integrate these elements of nutrition and sustainability at the same time alongside the economic objectives, taking into consideration the development and humanitarian nexus. As you know, that Yemen described by the UN as the worst humanitarian crisis in the world. So this is so important for us to, first of all, understand our priorities at the national level. On the other hand, it is so important to stand together, all the stakeholders within the country and also the development and humanitarian actors as one team to try to translate these priorities into practical actions and towards redirecting all the efforts towards the right and the short pathways to end the malnutrition in Yemen. So in brief, the Nutrition for Growth, it means for us learning and taking actions. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Ms. Al-Khada, and thanks so much for focusing on those 2 or 3 key points, right? About learning and about trying to balance the humanitarian and development priorities, and most of all, I think of trying to bring together as many actors as possible that can make a contribution to nutrition. So, thank you so much for that intervention, Ms. Al-Khada. I'd now like to hand the floor over to Sean Baker. So most of you know Sean. Sean Baker has been a global leader in fighting malnutrition for many years now. Sean is a committed supporter of Nutrition for Growth and of the Year of Action. He's joining us today wearing several hats, as he always does. He is, first and foremost, though, Chief Nutritionist at USAID. But he's also a representative of the Sun Donor Network. He is co-chair of the Global Nutrition Report and ex officio member of the Sun Executive Committee. Dear Sean, it'd be great to hear your perspective on the Nutrition Year for Action, and the N4G Year for Action, and maybe how this year 2021 builds on previous efforts and how it adds to this road that we're all on towards 2030. Over to you, Sean.
Thanks so much, Sergio, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's thrilling to see so many people online to talk about Nutrition for Growth Year of Action. Perhaps to respond to your question first, Sergio, I step back in time. I've been working in nutrition for about 4 decades, and I really think that it was in 2008 that an evidence-based revolution started, mainly powered by the first Lancet series on maternal and child undernutrition. And that obviously led to, among other things, the creation of the Scaling Up Nutrition Report. But despite that burst of energy, there still had not been significant increases in investment. It's really in 2013, the first ever Global Nutrition Summit, led by the UK, the Children's Investment Fund Foundation, the government of Brazil, that I say we started to get more serious about financing for nutrition and registering financial commitments and policy commitments. As Charlotte has said, actually, and that was when we also committed to create the Global Nutrition Report, because prior to that, there'd been a lot of fragmented reporting, but not one all-up reporting. And just to give you one measure of the change that has produced, prior to 2013, from donors that register official development assistance, funding for nutrition-specific interventions was hovering around $400 million a year, which, I mean, that's not even a rounding error. And it's now been pushed up to a little over $1 billion a year, 1.2 billion. Now, that's not enough yet, but better is good. And that's just looking at nutrition specific and of course just donors, but it's a similar trajectory that we've been on a concerted effort to ramp up political commitment that translates into financial commitments and policy commitments and programmatic action for nutrition. And of course, we were hit by COVID. So all of a sudden, everything was destabilized, the burden has increased, the costs are increased. So this is why we certainly see, I see personally, and certainly in USAID, this year is so absolutely critical, or really a make or break year, where we're facing either a re-neglect of nutrition, or we take energy from this crisis and re-energize, recommit, and accelerate progress. Now, in terms of the US government and USAID specifically, as you know, we have a new administration. Many of our appointees, including the new leader of USAID, have yet to be confirmed or are just coming into place. So we're still in this transition period where, you know, we can't yet make formal commitments. However, I think we're very fortunate in the US government that there's a really strong history of bipartisan support. One exhibit of that is in 2020, both the House and the Senate passed unanimous resolutions recognizing the importance of the US government leadership on combating maternal and child undernutrition and USAID specific leadership. It also comes at a particularly opportune time, fortuitously. Sometimes in crisis, there are good things that come out of it because there are two important US government-wide processes going on. The refresh of the global food security strategy, which is mandated by the Global Food Security Act, which is the legislation which finances Feed the Future, our flagship multi-sectoral program to reduce hunger, poverty, and malnutrition. And also we're undergoing a refresh of the Global Nutrition Coordination Plan, which really brings together the different parts of the US government that contribute to nutrition. And actually just last week, we started setting up a committee that will work across all of US government to bring to the table our efforts to elevate nutrition during this Nutrition for Growth Year of Action. I can say, of course, the three top-line priorities that this administration has made very clear: COVID, climate crisis, equity, inclusion. And each of those resonates strongly with nutrition. Obviously, COVID has disrupted every system we rely on to deliver nutrition. We've learned a lot. There's a huge amount of pivoting. We need to use that to re-energize the agenda. The climate crisis can fundamentally disrupt, again, all the progress in nutrition, and we need to make sure that as we discuss the climate crisis, we position nutrition as fundamentally endangered if we don't act. And then, of course, we know that one of the biggest fundamental drivers of undernutrition is inequity. So you also asked, you know, what do you need? What are the challenges? And I would say perhaps three things. First, telling our story. Decision makers across the board, people in national assemblies, in our case, both houses of Congress, they have so many competing priorities. We need to have a crisp, clear, hopeful narrative that progress is possible, efforts are being made on the ground. Very much linked to that is every time one of our partner governments steps up and makes something a priority and puts financial and political commitments on the table, that just creates a virtuous cycle of energy that our appropriators, our administration sees, wow, you know, we really are in partnership here, and the governments we're partnering with are really taking the lead on this issue. And thirdly, in the US certainly, but not just across the US, we see an incredible importance of civil society. And when civil society comes to the table saying this is important, and also prioritizing their private fundraising to contribute to nutrition, as what happened at the Global Nutrition Summit in Milan in 2017, where civil society coalitions from the US and from the UK came and said, not only are we going to raise our voice, we're going to raise money, and in that money we raise, we will dedicate it to nutrition. That's incredibly powerful. And I will underscore again that message of hope. I think sometimes in nutrition, we do ourselves a disservice by leading about how complex it is, how intractable it is, how grim it is. That may all be true, but we need to be very concrete of this is the problem, this is a solution, we can deliver on it, and there is hope. And even as Charlotte has presented from the Global Nutrition Report, all of us want to see more progress, but there's enough evidence of progress out there if we do the right things that there is absolutely no excuse for not using that evidence of progress to accelerate progress. And lastly, on a personal level, I have committed to break a lifelong ban self-imposed on social media and actually joined LinkedIn to post articles on the importance of this year of action for nutrition for growth. And with that, Sergio, over to you.
Thanks so much, Sean. I think thanks so much for your intervention. I think that the two things that jumped out to me at the end there was this idea of telling success stories, right? And I work in knowledge management sometimes, and I know the challenge it can be to get actors to really take credit for things that are going well despite the challenges, and to speak loudly about successes and when things are going well. So I think the importance of making sure that all kinds of different actors at country level tell their stories of success, even if it's only partial success, and that those stories can percolate to, like you said, parliamentarians and budget committees in other countries is so important. And it's something that we all need to work on. It's not enough to just implement a program and make the program as good as possible, but then actually we need to take the time to report on that program and to tell that story and to share that success widely. And I think your personal commitment to take to social media is a good example of that. I think we all know how hard you work and how committed you are, but then sometimes we do need to trumpet and we need to announce our beliefs and disseminate our successes. So it's great. So thanks for that message. And also I think the strong message at the end around the fact that the commitment process really needs to be led by national governments, and that as national governments make commitments, then other organizations and donor organizations can rally around those commitments and support them. So important for the commitment process to have really, really strong engagement from national governments. Thanks so much for your words there, Sean. So I'd now like to hand over to our colleague, Ms. Ibiso Ivy King-Henry. So Ms. King-Henry is of the Sun Business Network in Nigeria. And as we all know, and we've spoken quite a bit about the role of governments and civil society in scaling up nutrition, but businesses have so many important contributions to make to fighting malnutrition. So I'd now like to invite Ms. King-Henry to speak a little bit about what the Nutrition Year of Action, or the Nutrition for Growth Year of Action, means to the Sun Business Network, and maybe more specifically to the Sun Business Network in Nigeria. And most importantly, how you're trying to engage businesses, your members, in the N4G Year of Action. So over to you, Ms. King-Henry.
Thanks, Sergio. So it's really a delight to be here today to be part of this discussion. And indeed, the Year of Action means a lot to the Sun Business Network and as well to my country, Nigeria. So speaking a bit about what's going on in Nigeria, there has been quite a lot of momentum for improved nutrition. And the government have really taken it on board with the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning spearheading it, as well as the Sun Secretariat in Nigeria really leading the Sun networks on this. There's been quite a lot of dialogue, some independent, and right now there's an extensive exploratory geopolitical zonal dialogue going on in country, and I believe one is being held in Nasarawa today. And this really serves to create an opportunity for engagement and interconnection between stakeholders, as well as explore and synthesize promising approaches that contribute to sustainable food systems through the stakeholders' engagement. And the stakeholders involved in these dialogues are diverse. So we have the businesses, the SMEs, the larger businesses, science and academia, trade union, government, UN, etc., involved in these dialogues. And it really focuses on creating a better understanding for the country on 4 key areas. The first is, what is our vision for our food system in country, and what actions should we take in the next couple of years that will provide the greatest impact? Secondly, looking at how possible it is for these actions to be successful. Third is looking at what contributions stakeholders can make and how can we all work together as well as differently for collective action. And lastly, really looking at what changes must be made so that the food systems can meet the SDG expectations by 2030. Specifically for the Sun Business Network, we understand the critical role the private sector has to play to improve nutrition, especially in the creation of nutritious and safe foods, utilization of local ingredients, finding ways to reduce costs, for example, production costs, to ensure that these nutritious products are sold at an affordable price to low-income consumers. And we work closely with the other Sun networks in country as well as other stakeholders. Currently, the Sun Business Network in Nigeria is made up of 186 businesses, mostly SMEs, and each of them has made a signed commitment to improve nutrition. And these commitments are along their business operations. And so that's easier for them to fulfill those commitments. And we have a variety of commitments. So businesses are committing to food fortification, to workforce nutrition, to training their staff on nutrition, to the creation of smaller pack sizes. It's varied. And we are supporting the businesses in this year of action on nutrition with technical assistance, sometimes financial assistance, with training and capacity building to ensure that they really understand what nutrition is, nutrition and food safety is. To train them on the essence and importance of nutrition smart agriculture, such as biofortification. We are supporting businesses on product reformulation, on packaging, like what's the right package for your products, on responsible marketing, on promotion of healthy eating, and business resilience, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic. So we also work closely with the state chambers of commerce in country, and also in the process of signing an MOU with the National Association of Small Scale Industrialists, NASI, to ensure that our reach is wider and we have greater impact, especially at the sub-national level. And just so that we carry all businesses, everyone along as much as we can. And I think the last point is that we'll be conducting a survey this year to track our members' commitments. And I believe it's a good time for us to see how we can showcase these commitments, the alignment with the N4G, and what kind of commitments that businesses are really keeping to. And so sort of encourage us to advocate for these commitments and get them interested in signing up. That's it from me, Sergio. Thank you.
Wow, thanks so much, Ibiso, and great to hear that you ended with the word commitment, and that you're supporting businesses to kind of formulate their commitments and think through them. And if we see those commitments from businesses in Nigeria start to show up through the commitment tracking tool, that would be fantastic. So thanks for all that work. So before I hand over to colleagues from civil society in Ghana and from our youth leader in Kyrgyzstan, we have a few questions from the audience that we'd like to pose to participants that have already spoken. So our first question, I'll direct that to Charlotte. So Charlotte, we have a question here about how do commitments through the N4G process link with the ongoing Food Systems Summit engagement? Is there a link there, and what is that link?
Yes, thank you, Sergio. I think I've responded in the chat. I think what we need to understand is that government of Japan had a great idea with the year of action, because they have opened the possibility to not be limited to the Nutrition for Growth Summit. They've opened the possibility to look at nutrition accountability as a whole, to bring the different sectors, to bring the different stakeholders together. So for us, the way we see the year of action is that we're building a nutrition accountability framework for every commitment that will be made at any point, at any opportunity during the year of action. The only thing that we will put in place is to ensure that there are qualifying criteria that will be very clearly made available online. And what it is now at the moment is you have to ensure your commitment is smart. It aligns with your national plans, that it is in line with the principles of engagement, and you commit to report on this commitment. If you have those elements, then you can make a commitment using the nutrition accountability framework, no matter when the commitment is announced. And it can be part of the compact, even if the commitment is made during the UN Food System Summit, it can be still part of this nutrition effort and nutrition accountability framework as a whole, and included in the compact at the end of the year. Over to you, Sergio.
Great. Thanks so much for that, Charlotte. So we have another question here that's this time directed to Sean Baker. So let me track down the question properly. So Sean, there's a question here about, and it's, so whether we need to try and find a more equitable balance or a better balance in funding and policy attention between nutrition-specific interventions and nutrition-sensitive interventions, as there still seems to be, there's quite a big imbalance between the investments in the two. So what would you have to say about that?
Thank you, Sergio. Let me step back. I would say that if you go back to the roots of the nutrition revolution in 2008, at that point, I think the evidence base of what worked in terms of nutrition-specific interventions was far more robust than the evidence base of what works for what was then classified as nutrition-sensitive interventions. I think from the get-go, we've heard just how much our understanding of the burden of poor diets is for malnutrition in all its forms, including undernutrition. So our evidence base in terms of what works in nutrition sensitive has increased robustly. If you actually look at the original commitments, there were far more commitments to nutrition sensitive than nutrition specific, but I think they were a lot fuzzier because the evidence base was not that great. So I think, I'm not sure I would say balance is the right word, but I think getting much clearer about what are the specific actions we need that are specific and sensitive, and how do we track them, and how do we make sure they're working. We've come a long way. And I loved Miso, for example, gave extremely concrete examples of things that business can do. And there's a strong evidence base behind what she said. And I'd also just even the question on the links between the Nutrition for Growth Year of Action and the Food System Summit. To me, it's one of the beauties of this Year of Action that the Food System Summit really provides us as nutrition people an opportunity to make sure that safe, affordable, nutritious food is at the heart of the Food System Summit, particularly for infants and young kids and mothers. A reminder that in low and middle income countries, only 18% of infants and young kids in that 6 to 23 month window are getting a minimum acceptable diet. And that's a question of behavior change, because those foods are not affordable, not accessible, and often not safe. And then the rest of Nutrition for Growth allows us to really bring in the other aspects, the health system, where there are enormous gaps in delivering nutrition services, the social protection systems, and how do we make sure that nutrition is well positioned in humanitarian response. So I think it's actually, sometimes We think everything's blown up in our face with the pandemic. It actually has created a lot of opportunities to bring this year together. Over to you, Sergio.
Sergio, can I come in here as well?
Over to you, Gerda.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I very much appreciate also the chat box, because it's very lively. And I would like to encourage everyone to also focus on potential commitments, because starting inspiring each other already during this roundtable with, for instance, examples of clear multi-stakeholder commitments would be great. But I would like to build on what Sean has said. The Food System Summit and the N4G must strengthen each other. And in the Food System Summit, we need to make sure that a health perspective of people is brought in as well, just as the planetary health and sustainability. So people from health, please be active in the Food Systems Summit on healthy diets, on good nutrition in our food systems, and people from social protection as well, because healthy diets and healthy food must be available and accessible and affordable, and not more expensive than unhealthy or fast food or staple crops. And the same counts for the nutrition for growth. Of course, we need the health people there and the social protection people there, but we also need to have the food people there, just simply because at country level, all these parts of the nutrition picture need to work together. And Food System Summit is one go, but I expect and I really hope and count that N4G will jump even further, building already on the successes of the Food System Summit and creating a concrete agenda where we all can work together to make it happen, to end all forms of malnutrition. Thanks.
Thanks so much for that, Gerda. And I think building on what you were saying, I think Ms. Khada would like to make a comment. So please go ahead, Ms. Al-Khada.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, in Yemen, with the high rates of malnutrition, and even with a worse and deterioration situation in the epidemiological and the immunization coverage, we have all these, the success that we have made during the past years, we are losing these things. So I think the Nutrition for Growth makes us obliged to look at these, you know, challenges that we, because of the conflict and because of the humanitarian situation in Yemen, that we should take into consideration. And these commitments should be based on our realities, and you know, they should revolve on the improving the situation. So I think for Yemen, we need to have these commitments around the main obligations towards the affected community with malnutrition, with the severe malnutrition, and even with the people who have even complications with this malnutrition. We need to take the multi-sectoral approach in consideration and make more commitments in WASH and agriculture and everything that can pose the situation in Yemen. And all this because of the conflict and the fragmented state that we suffer here in Yemen. These commitments cannot be, you know, taken by the government alone, and it should be supported by the partnership with the humanitarian and development actors. That's what we need. And I think this what makes Yemen different, and all the conflict affected countries different from the others, that we can make the commitments, but we are not alone in translating these commitments into actions. We need the support of the humanitarian and development actors and the international communities in that.
Yeah.
Over to you, Sergio.
Sergio, do you allow me to ask a question to Ms. Karima?
Yeah, briefly.
Yeah. Ms. Karima, are you working with on vaccination? Are you part of this COVAX program?
Unfortunately, no.
Ah, okay. Okay.
But maybe I'm not sure if someone in the country level is working on this.
Okay.
Especially the Ministry of Health, maybe they're working. But we have this epidemiological serious problems in Yemen. Yes.
Yeah. No, I can imagine, and every country has its challenge. But I would like to emphasize here the opportunity that comes with this vaccination program, like with every vaccination program. And I emphasized already in my opening remarks that as a movement, we are trying to connect and work with, or we are working with Gavi, and we try to connect crucial nutrition and food services with the vaccination program, so that if a mother with her children or a family comes to a center for a vaccination, that they can also be supported with nutrition, with nutrition support, vitamins, breastfeeding, what have you, or other nutrition services.
Yes, thank you. Actually, Gavi is working in Yemen, so I will make sure to pass this to the Ministry of Health and communicating with Gavi. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kherda and Ms. Al-Khada. And I think, thank you, Ms. Al-Khada, for reminding us that each country will be making commitments that are relative to its own situation. Commitments are not necessarily to be compared between one country and another. Each country has a different situation and different needs and different priorities. At the same time that while, like Sean said, we want commitments to be hopeful and ambitious, that they also have to be realistic and they have to be feasible and they have to be grounded in evidence. But there should also be hopefully a call to attention for mobilizing more resources. And so you're absolutely right, Ms. Khada, that these commitments can be made in collaboration with partners. That governments cannot make them alone, but in partnership. So now we'll move on because we have two more roundtable participants that we really want to hear from. So thank you to everyone that's spoken so far, but also please do keep posting your questions, everyone in the audience, as we move ahead. So I'd now like to invite Mrs. Wilhelmina Okwabi. So Mrs. Okwabi is a nutrition advocacy specialist with the Civil Society Alliance's Executive Committee and with the Civil Society Alliance in Ghana. So as we all know, civil society organizations are so important in the Sun movement and in this year of action. They implement programs that strengthen communities. They support governments technically and in other ways. They advocate on behalf of all of us, and they do so much more. So we're excited to hear a little bit about from Ms. Okwabi about what the Nutrition for Growth Year of Action means for civil society, both in Ghana and globally, and how you're engaging with it. So over to you, Mrs. Okwabi. We know that Ms. Okwabi has had some difficulty connecting at times, so we'll be as soon as she's able to speak up.
Thank you very much.
Great, good to hear you, Ms. Okwabi. Please go ahead.
Am I with you?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Enable me. I'm all right. So enable us share what you are doing here in Ghana. For the civil society engagement to move the nutrition agenda forward, we had a project in mainstreaming nutrition at the district level. And this was done through engaging the policymakers of the district authorities at both national and subnational levels, and to ensure that nutrition was mainstreamed in the medium-term development plans of 20 targeted high-burden malnutrition districts in 5 regions. At the time, we had 10 regions. Currently, there are 16. So at the time, it was about 50% of total regions. And what was done was to support the districts in informing the planning officers, their budget officers, and sensitizing them on nutrition issues as far as development is concerned. So, armed with this kind of knowledge, they were able to put nutrition, both nutrition specific and nutrition sensitive issues into their district plans and to budget for them. Actually having budget lines for nutrition. Formerly, that was not happening. And nutrition was usually submerged under health or something. This kind of activity, nutrition has its line in the district plans. And so in monitoring, they actually track what is being done as far as nutrition is concerned. And then also to advocate for increased budgetary allocation by government. During their planning phases, we were there to support them. And then also to put coordination mechanisms for collaboration and to strengthen the multi-sectoral platforms that they had in the districts. Instead of each stakeholder working separately, they came together to implement activities as far as nutrition is concerned. And then also to help them to document the experiences and share lessons so that when it comes to expanding to other districts that might not have done, they may not start from scratch, but have something to build on so that nutrition becomes more relevant. So sometimes a few challenges, issues of actually getting different stakeholders to network well enough. There are issues there that needs to be taken on board. And then also issues of logistics and resources to maintain sustainability. These are also issues. And so much as we have gained experiences, we have also identified challenges and finding ways and means to overcome this so that nutrition becomes more relevant and we cannot contribute to the reduction of malnutrition in the high burdened districts that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Wilhelmina. And thanks for reminding us that when we talk about bringing multiple stakeholders around the table to collaborate, when we talk about planning in nutrition and documenting lessons, that we've heard a little bit about that, how that happens at the global level, and then it also happens at the country level and at the national level, and then it also happens at the district level, and so on. And it's one of the things that makes multi-sectoral action and multi-stakeholder action so complicated sometimes, that it has to happen at all these different levels. But at the same time, when I hear someone like you speak, it's just obvious that it's actually happening at the district level, which is fantastic. And that's at the end of the day where multi-stakeholder collaboration has to happen if it's going to strengthen programs, if it's really going to make a difference. So thank you so much for that. And just before I pass on to Kyrgyzstan, I'm going to ask you, Wilhelmina, even though you work mostly at the district level, have you been already engaging a little bit in the Nutrition for Growth process or the Year of Action? Or do you think that because of what we've discussed today, that there'll be a way for at the district level or district authority to somehow contribute to these Nutrition for Growth commitments and this Year of Action?
Well, usually it is the national and regional levels that commit to policies.
Yes.
We hope the district level will need to actually feed into what is happening at national level, so that it's not a top-down thing all the time, but bottom-up, because the bottom is where the action is. So that if they can feed what they have because they are the hands-on people. Then they can also inform what goes into the national decisions or the policy level. So it's important to engage both the district and the sub-district down there where things happen, so that I would say it becomes more practical, yeah, to do things that is going to help the people and not just from the high polluted tower areas.
Thank you so much for that, Wilhelmina. Absolutely. So many practical experiences and ideas that all have to come from district level, right? And also, I think some of those success stories that Sean was saying that he and other actors need, right? So the more that you can do what you said, like about documenting and sharing successes and making sure that those are broadcast, then other people can use those stories to try and mobilize more support and more resources. So thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you. So now I'd like to pass on to our last roundtable participant. So Ms. Manata Alexandrovna is a youth leader for nutrition in Kyrgyzstan, and she can join us today live, which is great. So Ms. Alexandrovna, I'd like to ask you to share some of your views with everyone on the Nutrition Year of Action. So both as an advocate and a mobilizer, but also as just one of the millions of young people who are directly affected by the decisions that policymakers take. And this really is a critical year, like so many people have said today, and many commitments and decisions are being made this year. So it'd be great to hear from you both as an advocate, but also simply as a young person who needs good nutrition like all the rest of us. So over to you, Manata.
Sergio, this is Deborah. Unfortunately, I think Manata we just lost her. So we're trying to get back. I'm really sorry. She was just online until like a minute ago. So let's go to a couple of questions from the chat box, perhaps for Charlotte or Sean, where we try to get her back online. Sorry, it's just happened now.
Take a look at those questions. If you could choose one or two and let me know. In the meantime, I'll ask the speakers a question. So around the question of challenges. So we've spoken a lot about the kind of commitments that you think either governments or businesses, civil society organizations will be trying to make this year and will be thinking about. But what do you think are some of the challenges to making commitments? What can you think of one specific challenge that you'd like to raise today, whether from a business perspective or civil society or government? And maybe, we have the right people in the room today to think about that challenge and try and help you with it. So whether to, so speakers from Yemen, from Ghana, from Nigeria, a specific challenge that you think the stakeholder group that you represent might have in making a challenge, making a commitment with the N4G process. And if one of you would like to speak up, please go ahead. Either Ms. Al-Khadar or Ms. King Harry.
Okay, yes.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I think the most challenging thing for Yemen, that nutrition is no doubt is a priority in Yemen, but how we can have this we can say this idea to be adopted by all the decision makers. What I mean is that nutrition is a life-saving here in Yemen, but this reality is blurred with the unclarity of the impact of this nutrition on the future of the nation in Yemen. So we need the decision makers to be aware of this, and we need the support from all the partners to draw their attentions towards the nutrition as we can say infrastructure system that we need to build from the scratch because of the conflict that has changed everything. Another challenge is the fragmented efforts that we can see by the stakeholders and actors, and everyone with different agendas and priorities. This is another challenge. And also we have this scarcity of resources. We have less resources and we need to mobilize more resources, whether human or financial resources. Another challenge is the dynamic context here, especially in a conflict-affected country, unexpected emergencies that emerge everywhere. And in a country actually with few preparedness plans due to the lack of information and also the lack of capacity and how to use even the available information to prepare for this emergency and dynamic context. We have many challenges, but we need to stand together and to take this one by one, and everything will be fine if we are together. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Ms. Al-Khada. And I'd like to maybe ask if other members of the roundtable have any reactions to some of the challenges that Ms. Al-Khada just laid out. Yeah, over to you, Sean.
I'm not sure it's exactly a reaction, but I really appreciate the examples from Yemen. I was going to say one overarching challenge, particularly in this year, is probably a sense that nutrition can wait. Even the language that has been embraced for the pandemic of nutrition is seen as a secondary impact. It's almost in many decision makers' mind, it's like we cure something else first, like we stop the pandemic, we stop the political unrest, and then we can deal with nutrition later. And we really need to come back to that. The first thing to be hit is nutrition, particularly nutrition in mothers and kids. That directly leads to death. And for those children who survive, they have lifelong consequences, which create a vicious cycle. And nutrition can't wait. Nutrition has to be addressed immediately. If not, there's backsliding. Backsliding equals more deaths of children and generations of children being lost to suboptimal development. And I think that comes out very clearly in the third Lancet series. And to me, it's something where we really need to rally around in any setting. Nutrition can't wait. Over to you.
Thanks for that, Sean. I think that's something of what Ms. Hada was alluding to as well, that it can be so hard when a country is faced with lots of challenges to get political leaders to pay attention to nutrition. But at the same time, like you're saying, Sean, it has to be done now, not after other problems are solved. It's actually one of the solutions to many problems. So how do you get attention of leaders now on nutrition, regardless of what else is going on? I'd like to ask maybe whether Dr. Naoko Yamamoto or Charlotte would like to come in on this question of in what ways can the Year of Action help a country like Yemen to bring attention of political leaders to nutrition and to do it this year, to do it as urgently as possible? In what ways do you think that Nutrition for Growth and the Year of Action are engaging the highest level of political leaders? And how can someone like Ms. Al-Khada take advantage of the Year of Action or get support from N4G to draw attention to nutrition at the highest political level?
Thank you, facilitator. I'm sorry, I cannot open the video, but let me say it that way. As exactly many people say that this year is a epoch-making, very important year to bring the high-level political attention. But at the country level, as you know, that the UN agency create UN nutrition. This is a joint work with all UN nutrition-related agencies. Then we will work with the resident coordinator to coordinate our voice advocacy and actions at country level together with all partners. So, but as many people had already said that the situation and the priority is different in each country, especially like Yemen, Syria, some conflict fragile countries. We would like to bring the nutrition as one of the pillar of the UHC primary health care. And we need to work together with other people. And as you know, many right now, global community also work for the primary health care as a system in a society. So, and I know that there's some movement also working for it to bring the all fundamental element of the nutrition should be included in the basic healthcare services together with immunization and water sanitation and others. So this is a way to go. And finally, I would like to say that monitoring and evaluation, as some of the speaker has already said, that's very important. Commitment only is not enough. We need to monitor, share data, share all information with all partners to come up the next improved policy and implement together. Let me stop here. Over to facilitator. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yamamoto, for some very concrete suggestions there. So thank you for that. And it seems that we've been able to get Manata back online. So I'm now going to switch over to Manata. So I introduced her earlier. Manata is a youth leader in Kyrgyzstan, and her last name Alexandrovna. Let me introduce you properly. And so Manata, great that you're online again. Can you share some of your views on what the Nutrition for Growth Year of Action means to you as an advocate and as a mobilizer, but also as a young person, like so many millions who expect good nutrition? Over to you.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone, very excited to be here. I'm speaking on behalf of the youth, not only from me, but from my youth advocates fellows. So I want to start my speech from the word that I'm not a doctor and I've never studied nutrition, but you know, I feel so bad and like my heart aches when I see all these like health problems, not only in my country, but in the world generally. And time to time, I'm judged by some people because of my like education background. They say like, if you don't have that nutrition education, how can you promote nutrition? But does it really matter if I want to change the world, if I'm a passionate advocate who wants to bring changes? And Nutrition for Growth, the Year of Action, is super important to bring the voices of the young people to show that even if we, like some of us don't have that nutrition background and we are not very deep in it, we are still wanting to change the situation in the world. And we are doing it like free of charge. We're not asking for the funding. We are continuing to doing it using like our own strength, using the social media, talking with our friends, doing like this kind of platforms. And yeah, Nutrition for Growth Year of Action is like super important for us to bring the voices of the young people. I just want to share the like example of the Kyrgyzstan during the COVID. Unfortunately, our government was busy with something different, but not the COVID situation in the country. And the youth was the ones who made the initiative groups, who was working with the people, who was carrying the like nutritious food to the rural areas. And yeah, this shows like that we are youth are not to be forgotten, and we are the ones who should be included in the decision-making processes as well. Yeah, I think I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Manata, and thanks for those heartfelt words. And maybe I'll ask you a question right away, which is, what help would you and other young folk in Kyrgyzstan who maybe want to engage more in the commitment-making process and contribute more to Nutrition for Growth and this Year of Action, what more do you need to be able to do, like you said, you work without pay necessarily, but you know, tools and resources can be helpful to you to do your activities. So what do you need more of? And we have a few hundred people on the line, and maybe some of them can know of resources and tools and experiences they can share.
You know, Sergio, like recently I visited an earlier some of the events that was in Rome and Kathmandu, and I really didn't see that much youth. Like really, looks like we're like people are not considering us as, I don't want to say equal, but it looks like they don't really take us serious. So what I want to do is that those who are working in the nutrition and like in all the fields, they should be working with youth because we're trying to be creative. We're trying not to use a lot of money, but to bring changes. So what kind of help we as a youth need for this is to be included, to be heard.
Thanks so much for that, Manata. Super simple. To be included, to be invited, to know what's going on, and to be allowed to participate, and to have to be asked your opinion. So I think probably everybody who's on today's webinar will have an opportunity over the next few months to try and include more youth, whether it's in a workshop or an event or in a meeting, or to share information with a youth association or youth organization, so that at least they have information and they can decide what to do with that information. So there's a call to action, I think, to everyone on the call today, which is think of one opportunity in the next 8 months between now and the Nutrition for Growth Summit, where maybe a young person is not present or participating, and what can you do to change that? Inclusion. Thanks so much for that, Manata. Okay, so we'll be wrapping up very soon, but before we do, I'd like to now hand over to Dr. Naoko Yamamoto. We heard from Dr. Yamamoto just a little while ago, but now I'll introduce her properly again. So Dr. Yamamoto is Assistant Director General for Universal Health Coverage and Healthier Populations with the World Health Organization. And Dr. Yamamoto will be giving us some closing remarks before we wrap up today's session. So over to you, Dr. Yamamoto.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you, facilitator. First, the closing, I would like to thank all participants, dear some friends, and all participants who joined this webinar, and all panelists. Thank you very much. I'm also delighted to participate in today's discussion in this webinar. This third roundtable has been a rich exchange with the different perspectives and experiences from various corners of the world, from West Africa to Middle East and Central Asia. We are united in one objective: the fight against malnutrition in all its forms, and to leave no one behind. Maybe facilitator will summarize today's discussion too rich to summarize quickly, but our discussion has been action-oriented, focusing on equity, highlighting health, and putting people in center, and need commitments, and also monitoring the progress with data, and of course the multi-sectoral partnerships. There are many good keywords we have already shared. Every country, everyone has a role to play. And finally, Manata, the last speaker of the youth, clearly articulated that they need to join and they need to engage more. So I really take that message as my homework. And so I should say malnutrition is also an issue of equity and social justice. And the COVID-19 highlighted the issues, and including health inequities and the importance of the nutrition. So our challenges are huge, but as many speakers say that this year we have many opportunities for nutrition. We have a World Health Assembly next month, and many people have already said that for the System Summit in September and Press Summit event in July. And as Helda said that We will continue to shine spotlight on nutrition in November at COP26, as also December Nutrition for Growth Summit. So we are ready to embrace these key moments to stand strong and build momentum for nutrition. And we need to join forces to attract increased investment. Yes, its evidence is very clear. Nutrition is a very strong and effective investment in the society for the human capital and drive sustainable development. And let me say a few words about UN nutrition. This is a unique position to harness the expertise of the member of agency, UN agency, to deliver one UN voice on this important topic, nutrition. As chair of the UN nutrition, I see advocacy at global, regional, national level as a fundamental piece of the address these issues. So as UN, all UN agencies, we are working to craft common narrative so that we can amplify key messages to every event and every opportunity. So we are going to work with this, especially we are going to focus on the country's impact as together with some movement. So we will continue to do so. So we need to further promote learning across countries and replicate good practice. And we also raising with colleagues to strengthen the nutrition dialogue and encourage more UN resident coordinator. I have already mentioned the resident coordinator, but this is a good tool or machinery to as a UN agency and to work together with all partners. So I know we all know that nutrition is a maker of sustainable development. So let us make nutrition the bridge between other technical areas so that we can deliver integrated action for the 2030 agenda, including UHCPH, so on. So let me conclude. I thank you, all of you, and looking forward to working with you for the action at the country and the community level. I thank you. Back to the facilitator.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yamamoto, for those closing and I would say really, really encouraging words. Thank you so much. And we'll be wrapping up in the next minute or so. If I could maybe ask all the speakers to turn their cameras on if they could, just so we could all say a collective goodbye and everybody could see everybody. It'd be really great. Awesome. So I think we saw in the chat box, and I think it's super appropriate that maybe, sadly, I think the government of Japan couldn't join us today, obviously because of time differences and everything. But I think we owe them all a big thank you for leading on the Nutrition for Growth Year of Action and hosting this summit in December 2021. And doing it amidst so many challenges of changes of calendar and changes of venue and changes of everything, while dealing with their own COVID pandemic in Japan. So it's really a great thank you to them, and I'm sure that they'll get this thank you from all the participants today somehow communicated to them. So that would be great. And also I'd like to thank all the speakers today, all of you who dialed in from all your different regions and time zones and overcame different technical challenges to speak today. So thank you so much for having spoken today and for sharing your perspective with everyone. And thank you to everyone who dialed in to listen in. And thank you for all the comments and questions that you posted. They really enriched the event, I think. So thank you for those. I know some were answered by speakers, others were answered in chat box. And if any couldn't be answered in either of those two ways, I know the colleagues from the Sun Movement Secretariat and the Global Nutrition Report will follow up and answer those questions. Some of them I think were a bit technical to answer on the spot, but they'll definitely get answers. So I'd like to end by saying that as the government of Japan and the Sun Movement Coordinator and as we heard from the Global Nutrition Report today, this Nutrition Year of Action, it presents us with a key moment for change. And we all have a role to play. And I think we've highlighted all the different angles and all the different contributions that different groups make to scaling up nutrition and to nutrition for growth. And that commitments are so important for governments to make, but it's for everyone to make And we heard from Sean today about his own personal commitment, which was great. So thanks everyone for attending today and for speaking. And I think I'll end by quoting Sean by saying that nutrition can't wait. This is the year of action, and it's an incredibly important year. And I think we all agree and we all hope that by the time December comes around and we're all at the Nutrition for Growth Summit, the commitments that we see tabled, that we see have been tabled together mean that the dial will move even faster on nutrition than it has to date. So thank you everyone, and have a good day or a good evening, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Sergio as well for facilitating it. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Sergio. Thanks everyone, and we will be sharing the recording of the report as well. So
Thank you very much. Bye.
We'll be in touch. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.